Nearing the end of season 2 and got some good ones here. So take a journey with me as I watch through Star Wars Rebels for the first time. Well, hello there. My name's Jeremy and welcome back to Freeform Disney. Quick announcement before launching in, I'm live streaming my first watch of the season 2 finale of Rebels on Sunday at noon Pacific Standard Time. Now that's Sunday the 24th, so we're coming up in less than 24 hours. That's also 8 p.m. UTC London time. And hey, while we're on the topic of live streams, there's also other live streams coming up. I'm going to be live streaming Star Wars Squadrons again, continuing that Tuesdays at noon Pacific. And also Thursday nights at 11:45 p.m. you can join me and my wife Natalia as we live stream the new WandaVision episodes. So all kinds of goodies coming up. And hey, now then, without further ado, it is going to be time to go give you the normal video for the live stream I did for my first watch of not the last episodes of season 2, but episodes 17, 18, and 19. So I ended up doing 2 live streams for the last few episodes there. And anyway, so that way for everybody who doesn't watch the live streams, well, this will be your video right here. And yes, I'll go ahead and do a normal video for the finale here later as well. Anyway, onward we go. So we're off to episode 17 of season 2, and that is The Honorable Ones. So right off the bat, we're headed off to Geonosis. And that, whoa, I'm like, well, that's intriguing right there. And apparently they were building something huge. Leaving that one a little mysterious because it had to be orbital in how it was built. There's all kinds of debris around the planet. And I'd heard a little reference to what was going on in canon about Geonosis and that there was something big going on. Well, apparently this is it because there are no life signs on the planet. So millions of Geonosians dead, I guess? Or I guess forcibly relocated, I guess is the other possibility here. Regardless, I think even then you're probably talking millions of Geonosians dead. It's like, wow. That was not where I expected to go with Geonosis. And even then, this is obviously a mystery that is going to come back sometime in the future. It was not solved here. You can say that right off the bat. And, well, really, this is about all we know. So the Empire did something, we're assuming. Considering the big construction going on and everything else, that seems to be the obvious answer. Well, anyway, on with the episode, and they go and land on an orbital station there because they're trying to find out what the Empire is making. Which this sounds very Death Star referencing here, I'm just saying. Anyway, they run into Agent Callus because it was a trap. It's a trap. Anyway, they escape, and well, in the process, Zeb and Callus end up in an escape pod together, which ends up shooting down onto an ice moon of Geonosis. So hey, we are getting a bit of a buddy cop episode going on here where the two really clearly don't get along, but have to work together to survive. So that's gonna be fun. Now there are some interesting nitpicks, I'll admit. There's a whole, hey, why do they neither build a shelter down there nor use the escape pod as a shelter? Doesn't really matter, to be frank. Came up in the live stream too, but perfectly fine. So anyway, they are trapped down in that cave and they need to get up to the surface because they're gonna try to get rescued, and the signal's just not going through well down there. Now, luckily for the possibility of them working together, we introduce these giant bird-like creatures who are going to attack them. So they essentially have to work together to fend them off. Otherwise, there's plenty of little looks and, oh, should I shoot him? Should I kill him? Certainly some of that going between the two. Well, and then here's where this gets really interesting, and this is where I start really liking this episode, because it's time to actually start humanizing Callus. Callus, this guy who has been so, I don't even know if I want to call him two-dimensional. He's been one-dimensional throughout this show so far. Well, anyway, first we talk about how he doesn't ask questions about what happened on Geonosis, but surely the Empire wouldn't be behind that. And then we start talking about that genocide of the Lasat. Yeah. So he apparently got his weapon, a Lasat weapon, from one of the Lasat who died honorably over defending Lasan, which we find out is called the Busan Kira, which is the Lasat warrior way. So we can actually get a little lore on Zeb too and his people. And so really the weapon was actually gifted to Callus. So that's actually an intriguing piece, and that starts to change your perception just a little bit of Callus right off the bat. Callus was, I was only doing my duty. It was nothing personal. And also, we all have things we'll never forget. So clearly there's regret, there's trauma sitting in there too with what he did. And then we also get this other interesting piece because we have Callus in one of his first missions where he was trying to bring peace to Onderon. Yeah, Imperial peace might not quite be peace, but we'll get into that another time. But anyway, apparently they ran into a Lasat mercenary who was working for Saw Gerrera, which, by the way, that's cool. That's, I think, is that the first reference to Saw Gerrera we hear within Rebels? Maybe it's the second. It's got to be one of the first. But yeah. Anyway, that Lasat apparently killed off the entire unit except for Callus. Left him alive for who knows what reason. But that gives another reason between the two. Also, that much more reason for Callus having problems with Lasat. But yeah, so Zeb actually gives a line about how you can't judge every Lasat based on that one. And the obvious reciprocal line comes up, which doesn't that apply to Imperials too? Well, nice bit of dialogue here. So yeah, we're definitely changing our perception of Callus. And, well, frankly, kind of changing Callus's perception, at least of the rebels, or at least of Zeb at the very least. Now, anyway, unsurprisingly, it is only by working together that they're going to go ahead and make it out successfully because the bird creatures come back and they've got to escape quickly. Oh no! And, well, they grudgingly work together and they develop a newfound appreciation for each other, kind of what you expect. And then there's a last bit between the two while they're up on the surface. So Callus tells Zeb that back on Lasan, that it wasn't supposed to be a massacre. But he realized the Empire wanted to make an example and that he knows he took credit for it before. And Zeb essentially says, hey, no, the past is in the past, it's over, and hey, my name's Zeb. Now, sure, let me fully admit, this is a little bit of a retcon on Callus because I don't think they ever had that intent back in season 1. I could be wrong. Maybe they had drawn out that map and they knew they were gonna make this change for Callus. It doesn't feel like it though. But you know what? I'm perfectly okay with this for a couple of reasons. A, it's a great change of character and development for Callus in the first place, which is awesome. But 2, it's a retcon that works in a way that is believable for his character. You can believe it was Callus's bravado and also not wanting to think about that past. That he essentially overplays it heavily so as to avoid all of that pain and avoid being that person. So yeah, I mean, I can see it that way even if it weren't a retcon. So yeah, no, I'm perfectly fine with the way we changed this. Well, anyway, we see Zeb get rescued, and well, later Callus gets rescued too by the Imperials. And that said, though, the last moment on this episode is the comparison. Zeb gets rescued, so it's a friendly, warm greeting. But for Callus, it's cold and lonely. He sees Admiral Constantine, and well, it gives a hello, but Admiral Constantine's response is just this formal, as if it was any other day. And then Callus's quarters feel so empty. Beautiful ending to it, by the way. And that, by the way, leaves me wondering heavily where we're gonna go with Callus. Now, Callus has long been a one-dimensional character, but now I think there's finally a chance to change that if they really are going to commit to what we started here in this episode. And hell, to be honest, before this episode, I thought he would probably be killed off before the end of season 2, just because, we've killed off all the other one-dimensional characters from season 1. Callus can go ahead and go away too, right? But now, I'm not so sure he's going to be killed off because we created an opening for him to really become interesting. There's more to him. He's not just, hey, it's villain guy coming after us. Oh no, incompetent villain guy. How will he fail today to stop our rebels? That's essentially all he's been. There's nothing more to his character until now. So anyway, personally, I loved that about this. Yes, there's definitely a bunch of cliche and how they went about some of the things in this episode and fighting the bird-like creatures and stuff. But those aspects between Zeb and Callus, definitely enjoyed them. So yeah, it was a good one. Now on to episode 18, Shrouded Darkness. Definitely one of the best ones of the season here so far. Now right off the bat, we're into a lightsaber duel between Kanan, Ezra, and the 2 Inquisitors. And yeah, it's a fun fight, no doubt about that. There is an interesting comment from Kanan in the middle of this, where he says, I'm not going for crazy anymore. Because that's when he was talking to Seventh Sister there. And just, there's backstory. Oh, smell backstory. Just, I'm curious, because that's got to be about somebody he dated before Hera, because I'm sure, not anymore, so now he's with Hera, who's not crazy. So who the heck is that a reference to, and what the heck was that about? I mean, hopefully we dig into that somewhere in the future because I'm curious. Obviously, the comics did not touch this. So interesting right there. And the other nice thing about the battle is it really showed off the continuing improvement in the teamwork between Kanan and Ezra. And also Ezra's continuing development of his powers, capping off with him actually using his animal connection to summon some flying creatures. And these are ones heck, we saw before back in season 1 on the Stygian Prime episode where they were trying to rescue Jedi Master Luminar Unduli. And I did look it up, and apparently these are called Tibides. Assuming I pronounced it right, of course, but what an interesting name. Tibides. Tibidi. Makes me think of chickadees, which are, of course, a teensy tiny little bird. Well, anyway. So, yeah, off we go. They make their escape, and, well, we hear a little bit about how they've been running to those two Inquisitors again and again as stopping them from setting up a new base, so it's interesting, this background piece about how much trouble they're having lately. And so, off to the Ghost. We're going to need some help and some advice. So who is it time to see? It's Ahsoka! And hey, it's me. I am always happy to see Ahsoka pop up. Now, while we're on the ship, Ezra actually walks in to talk to Ahsoka, and she's actually watching some old training holos that were recorded by Anakin, which actually apparently Ezra used himself. Nice detail. And let me say, I can't say I like the visuals on Anakin, kind of ew. Couldn't you have done them visually at least more in the style of, say, everybody else here, Kanan, Ezra, etc.? You'd look better than that. What can you do? Oh, well, Ezra has a little line to her in here that he's like, do you know what happened to him? I'm just going, yeah, we're definitely building up to that reveal, aren't we? Oh, I mean, that's too direct a line. Now, I'm gonna bet you it's coming in the season 2 finale. Now, given a couple of things, A, how much people love that finale, that something like that would make sense considering how big that would be. And B, they really can't keep holding out on it forever. And I mean, we've already stretched over a whole season of waiting for Ahsoka to figure it out. And I just doubt it's going to be wasted somewhere in the middle of a season. So the season 2 finale's gotta be where we are doing that. And it feels like we're building to there. Well, anyway, it is now time to head off to the Jedi Temple on Lothal because we're gonna go talk to Master Yoda. And it's interesting that Ahsoka seems to know he's alive, so there's clearly been contact between Ahsoka and Yoda after the course of Revenge of the Sith. So there's a little backstory lore sitting in there that we didn't know before, at least not within any of the visual media. Maybe the Ahsoka book or something goes into that. Hey, so off they go. And now Ahsoka chooses not to help open the Jedi Temple, which, by the way, nice attention to detail. Back to her not seeing herself as a Jedi, because, well, I mean, she isn't. And clearly seems to be a case of respecting the Jedi customs. So that means Kanan and Ezra lift the temple up as it twists up, and by the way, that's a cool effect. And this time, I guess for bonus points, the opening is further down. Dun 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 dun. A new area of the temple. Not that I know how much it matters, but it's a nice detail. And so now at this point, the episode's gonna split up. So each of the three are gonna have different encounters in the temple. Oh, and just for a little extra tension, we end up having the Inquisitors track them down and find the temple and slowly work at getting it open so they can get in at them. Dun dun dun. Just kind of your tension time builder right there to say there's a ticking clock going on. Well, anyway, so after those three encounters, first off, the biggest one is Kanan's. So Kanan heads off and he finds a sparring room. And there's a temple guard in that sparring room. Now, Kanan's looking for advice on how to defeat Vader and the Inquisitors, and the guard tells him, try to fight and you will fail, the rebellion will be destroyed, you will die, and your apprentice will become a servant of evil. Because essentially the dark side calling to Ezra, yada yada, he's gonna be consumed by it. So guess what? Guard says, yo, Kanan man, you step aside because I am gonna go ahead and kill Ezra for you so he'll never turn to the dark side. And Kanan's like, yeah, sure, okay, that sounds fine. Right. No, Kanan's not quite okay with that. Balks at it and chooses to fight the temple guard. Yeah. Well, anyway. Oh, one other cool thing, by the way. On the back wall, there are a bunch of lightsabers on the wall. So many designs in the hilts, and oh, that's pretty cool, actually. So between him and the guard, the lightsaber duel starts. Eventually, Kanan not doing well enough, so he actually grabs another lightsaber, which I find there an interesting detail that the one he grabs is actually red. I don't know why. There's just something in that he happened to grab, of all the lightsabers on the wall, one that was red. I don't know if that'll come up sometime later, or if it's about say, a bit of dark side and some of the impulses within Kanan himself sitting there? Interesting question. Well, anyway, the fight goes on and on. 2 other guards join the main one, and, well, it goes until Kanan essentially knows that he's been defeated. And, well, he admits that he can't protect Ezra forever from others or even from Ezra himself. And that essentially Ezra's going to have to rely on the training Kanan gave him and hope that that's good enough. And that's when the temple guards stop. Now, the main temple guard, by the way, turns out to be our Grand Inquisitor before he fell to the dark side. So he was actually one of those temple guards, which, whoa, small world sometime. The connections right here. Interesting stuff. And for bonus points, he knights Kanan. So Kanan is now an official Jedi Knight. It's interesting also that we still called him Kanan at that moment and didn't actually call him Caleb Doom. I don't know. Interesting little side note there. Well, anyway, that was cool. So how about Ezra's little side story? So Ezra gets whisked away and gets to talk to Yoda. And this time we actually get to see Yoda, for better or for worse, because in some ways I think I might rather see the shiny sparkles. That's because he visually is not the greatest interpretation of Yoda for me, but whatever. The voicing, by the way, is great because, oh man, I recognize that voice. That is Frank Oz back to do Yoda. Nice. And Yoda, by the way, has a little line about how Ezra can see him because Ezra's abilities are growing. That was an interesting explanation for why we see him instead of Sparkles this time. And then we get one other big piece from here, other than Yoda talking about how the Jedi were consumed by the dark side and giving kind of a bit of that past, and heck, how Yoda himself was driven by fear. But anyway, Yoda tells Ezra to find Malachor. This is clearly going to be something big as we're pushing. Again, it feels like we are laying little Easter eggs running up toward the finale here, and I'm guessing Malachor has something to do with that. Now, for our final little encounter, we have Ahsoka, and this is the smallest of the bunch. So Ahsoka essentially stays where she's at, and she, well, essentially gets haunted. So the Force shares visions which seem to be her own self-doubts as we see Anakin saying that she left him when he needed her most and that she was selfish to do so, that she abandoned and failed him. And we see in the vision that he became Darth Vader. So does she know now? I'm still not convinced she really knows it, but she's got to be suspecting it at least at this point. I mean, her last little line is that they're still away, and that so she's still hoping. Interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. Well, anyway, that finishes up all the encounters, so now they all leave while the temple guards actually hold off the Inquisitor, which is kind of cool visually. And to cap off the episode, well, we see Vader arrive at the temple and give an ominous line about how the growing power of the Jedi will be their undoing. Which, by the way, James Earl Jones back again to voice Vader. Oh man, it's cool that they brought him in to do that. And by the way, definitely an ominous line that has to be building up the finale of the season. Oh, I can't wait for it. So soon. I'm less than 24 hours from watching it at this point. So really enjoyed this one here. This was a good episode. Definitely dug into all kinds of things and our characters and lore. Oh, yep. Yes, indeed. Okay, so how about the last one of these 3 episodes for today? So this is episode 19, The Forgotten Droid. Now, as soon as I hear Droid, I'm like, oh no, this is gonna be bad. I have too much trauma from Clone Wars right there. Although not every Droid episode in Clone Wars was bad. I actually enjoyed the 4-episode Clone Wars arc about droids. But yeah, this one's okay. I mean, there's definitely some good stuff in here. So anyway, we start out and we're actually in the hangar of one of the ships with a whole slew of our rebels talking. And to me, the really big note was actually that Ketsu Onyo was there. That's Sabine's old friend, a member of Black Sun who we saw earlier this season. And it was surprising because essentially she's here and she's present in an episode that she didn't need to be here for. Because we don't really see her much, just in the very beginning and also at another quick time in battle. So that to me feels strongly like setup for the finale. She's probably going to be here in the finale and we're introducing that she's here and around with everyone. That's what I think is going on with that. And for what it's worth, I think the same is true of Vader and Ahsoka popping into the episode before this, and possibly even the Callus piece in the episode before that. Again, there has been lots of setup going on for this finale, and I definitely think it's going that way. I mean, it could be season 3 stuff for all I know, but they feel at least a good bit of it is that. Well, anyway, so on to this episode more. So apparently they've got to lead on a new potential rebel base off in the Yost system, but they've got to pick up fuel first from an Imperial outpost. And that fuel pickup is really the excuse for what we're going on here. So off the Ghost crew goes, and well, it's time to set up an episode for Chopper to go have his own little Chopper episode. And in fairness, I actually feel a little bad for Chopper and how everyone was treating him at the beginning, making fun of poor Chopper. It's like, oh, I admit though, at the same time, Chopper's probably getting the same he gives to everyone else. It's like, dang, Chopper. Yeah. Well, anyway, Chopper heads off to go buy a new leg that he just got entranced by and gets left behind when the crew has to make a hasty escape. So off goes Chopper, who ends up on a cargo ship with his stolen leg, Imperial cargo ship, and hijinks ensue. So all kinds of stuff happens, but the important piece here is that there is a new droid called AP5. Now he's currently essentially disrespected by the Imperials around him, and he's running inventory on a cargo ship. He ends up catching Chopper, but they talk long enough that they build a real rapport between the two. We even get a tiny piece about how Chopper may have been a war hero during the Clone Wars. Now, I'm expecting we're going to hear more about this some other time in the future, because this was a cool extra piece. I'm like, interesting, Chopper the war hero, huh? Nice, I love adding these little pieces of backstory here. We get a little bit. And AP5, on the other hand, used to be a military analyst on a Republic warship during the Clone Wars. And apparently both of them even served during the same campaign, the Ryloth campaign, which was end of season 1 of Clone Wars. And during the course of that, Chopper's Y-Wing crashed down onto Ryloth. And that's also where we talk a little about how Hera cared about Chopper and actually saved him, which surprises AP5. Well, AP5's commander died and AP5 got downgraded. So in the end, AP5, unsurprisingly, chooses not to report Chopper, and well, Chopper in return removes AP5's restraining bolt. Now things go on, and there are some weird issues in this episode, let me tell you. With Chopper, and I find this odd, maybe it can just be excused as Chopper being Chopper, where he just chooses to be hitting this cargo ship's captain with his new leg instead of using the bloody sparker he has that can stun a human and knock them out. I mean, come on, use the weapon that obviously is really good here. But whatever, don't worry too much about that. That's it, Chopper's a crazy guy, he just loves to hit people and beat them up rather than just stun them. Well, anyway, some of the other stuff in here is that Chopper really has found AP5 to be his new friend, and that's big for Chopper. Oh, and also apparently that Yost system they were going to go to was a trap the Imperials were setting up, but luckily AP5 knew about it, warned the rebels, and hey, gave them a new set of coordinates to go to. Anyway, so long story short, AP5 gets shot by the cargo ship captain, then the cargo ship captain gets taken out by Chopper, then they all get back to the fleet, and Chopper ends up sacrificing his new leg to save his friend. Aww. Now, ultimately, I liked this episode. The best part was easily the section in the cargo bay of the ship between Chopper and AP5. Good bit of conversation and that backstory in there too. And I'm curious where this might head. Chopper having a new friend could really help out Chopper and maybe help balance him a little as a character. Because, oh man, he can go off the deep end sometimes. Who knows, might even end up bumping up his ranking for me in the long run. So I'm curious to see where we go. Oh, and while this episode wants to claim that this is now Chopper's only friend, I mean, come on, Hera's also his friend too, right? Ah, whatever. One other interesting little question on this episode was, is this the first time we've heard Chopper identified as C1-10P? Because Hera said it here at one point, but I don't know that I've heard that designation before. Maybe it's come up before and I just didn't put too much credit on it or something. I don't know. I don't remember it. Well, anyway, cool stuff. So yeah, there we go. Those were the 3 episodes here for this video. And we are definitely nearing the season 2 finale with these episodes, and I can't wait to finally watch it with all of you very shortly. So see everybody who's live streaming here Sunday tomorrow. And if not, don't worry, I will have that other video coming up and regular video in the long run too, probably a week or so afterward. And hey, with all of that out of the way, let me say, well, what about you? What do you think about the animation for Anakin and Yoda? And do you like Chopper's new friend AP5? Let me know down below in the comments. And hey, before I go, let me, as usual, take a moment to thank all of my wonderful patrons. If you're interested in helping support the channel through Patreon, there's a link down below in the description. Don't hesitate to click. Love to have you over there. And to everyone watching, thank you so much for watching. If you like the video, don't forget to give it a like, a share, and subscribe. I'll see you back here tomorrow for another new episode of Freeform Disney. Have a magical day, and may the Force be with you always.